Welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Tensions have reignited between Israel and Hamas after the two sides carried out airstrikes for the first time since the first week of July. On Sunday, the Israeli army accused Hamas of launching a projectile towards Israeli territory. The rocket was reportedly intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome anti-rocket system. The attack set off sirens in Israel's southern district of Shah HaNegev, but no casualties were reported. Israeli Air Force carried out retaliatory strikes on Hamas facilities in the Gaza Strip. Underground facilities and factories in central and southern Gaza were targeted by the Israeli Defense Forces. The attacks also coincided with a personal change at the head of the IDF's Gaza division, with Brigadier General Nimran Aloni taking charge. Now, Israel is also dealing with escalated tensions along its northern border with Syria. The IDF announced that it had fired upon a group of 4 militants who were laying explosives along the border near Golan Heights. All 4 militants were killed in the Israeli attack. Last month, Israel had carried out airstrikes on military targets in Syria. The IDF has been targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters who have been operating on Syrian soil. Last month, 5 Hezbollah fighters were killed in an Israeli strike near Damascus. Amichai Stein, our diplomatic correspondent, is joining us live from Jerusalem for more on this. Good afternoon to you. Now, tensions have reignited between Israel and Hamas, with the Israeli Air Force carrying out retaliatory strikes on Hamas facilities in the Gaza Strip. What is the latest that you have for us?
Now, exactly what you said. After, let's say, a month of quiet without rockets from Gaza towards Israel, last night at about 9:30 Israel local time, sirens were heard in southern Israel. One rocket was launched and intercepted by an Iron Dome missile defense system. This, again, came quite as a surprise, let's say, and no organization, by the way, claimed responsibility. But still, Israel says we are seeing Hamas as the homeowner of the Gaza Strip, meaning every time a rocket is being fired, Hamas is responsible, even if it's terrorists on the ones behind this rocket, because they say the organization allowed such rocket to be launched. So that's why Hamas targets were launched. But I need to say, the last couple of months, like they said, except their rockets being
and we have seemed to have lost Amichai Stein there. We will try to re-establish connection with him now. So he has been bringing us the latest information coming out of Israel, with Israel carrying out retaliatory strikes against Hamas. We know that a rocket was launched from Hamas yesterday. It was intercepted by the Israeli forces, by the Iron Dome system. The rocket was reportedly intercepted by the anti-rocket system. Sirens were set off, and we know that people in southern Israel had to run to bomb shelters when these rockets were fired from Gaza, but no casualties were reported. And we have got Amichai Stein back with us. Amichai, you were saying the latest coming out of Israel there, the rocket was reportedly intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome, the anti-rocket system.
Yes, the rocket was intercepted, but still Israel sees Hamas as the owner of Gaza. That means every rocket being fired from Gaza towards Israel, Hamas is being seen as a responsible organization that allowed such rocket to be fired. That's why Hamas targets were struck last night, although, by the way, no organization took responsibility. And I need to say, in the last couple of months, the area was quite quiet, I need to say, because Hamas was very focused on fighting its own corona and COVID-19 pandemic inside Gaza. They tried to prevent outbreak As we don't know why it was fired or what reason it has been fired. So this, again, is very surprisingly last night, especially by the way that all eyes in Israel were on the northern border.
Right, Amichai, while we still have you, the attacks also coincided with a personnel change at the head of the IDF's Gaza division, the new Brigadier General taking charge. What is the significance there?
Right. So a new Brigadier General responsible for Gaza entered yesterday, and he will try really, to keep the silence, the quiet on the border in recent months. This is his main target. Every month Israel allows money to enter the Gaza Strip, about several $million, so they can conduct payments, and this allows Hamas to breathe economically. So this allows also quiet in the area. This is the equation right now. So at this point, really, no one expects or no one sees a reason why things should explode or should burst in the area, unless, by the way, Israel assumptions that if there will be a corona outbreak inside Gaza, or a problem with stability economically in Gaza due to a COVID crisis, that might cause really Hamas to go outside and try maybe to pressure Israel to maybe enter more money or allow much more humanitarian projects or other stuff in the area. So this is the only assumptions right now, what can burst the region into some kind of conflict. At this point, in the last several months, it has been quite quiet, the border between Israel and Gaza.
And this at a time also when Israel is dealing with escalated tensions along its northern border with Syria. What is the latest coming out there?
Exactly. So last night, a group of at least 4 terrorists tried to plant explosive device on the Israeli-Syrian border. We don't know yet, by the way, to which group these terrorists belong to, but IDF patrols identified them and killed at least 4 terrorists in this group. Now, this comes after a week of tension between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah claims Israel struck a target in Syria, killing one of its activists. And then a few days later, Hezbollah tried to infiltrate Israel with, again, a group of terrorists. But again, this attempt was stopped. So yesterday's attempt, again, we don't know who is responsible for these terrorists. It might be Hezbollah, it might be another organization, it might be an Iranian group being sent to the border. But again, it shows you how much, even though these countries are dealing with corona crisis, the tension in the region is very high, and the border, the northern border, suddenly became a very strong hotspot for a possible outbreak of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah or another militant group. And Israel, let's say, are very tense at the moment on the Gaza front and the Syrian front.